Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Recording. Vincent Brown had been mixing sound for 15 years, and he'd learned one truth. People forgot microphones were listening. On that September evening at the Grandview Hotel ballroom, he sat in his booth adjusting levels for Congressman Randolph Vaughn's fundraiser, watching wealthy donors mingle below. Vincent's company, owned by Marvin Saunders, had handled every major event in the city for 2 decades. At 34, Vincent had built a quiet life. His wife Kayla taught 3rd grade, and they just bought a house in Riverside. Simple, safe, predictable. He was packing up his equipment when he noticed the recorder still running on Channel 7, the wireless mic in the private salon adjacent to the ballroom. He'd set it up earlier for the VIP reception. Vincent reached to stop it, then froze. Cleaned up the Harbor Point situation? Vaughn's voice was crystal clear. The inspector's accident was convincing. Brake failure, just like we discussed. That was Marco Knight, Vaughn's campaign manager. Vincent had seen him earlier, all sharp suits and sharper eyes. And the building passes inspection next week. The new inspector knows which boxes to check. 23 floors of luxury condos, cutting-edge waterfront property. Nobody'll ever know the foundation's compromised. Vincent's hands went cold. Harbor Point. His younger sister Lillian worked near there. Thousands would work and live in those buildings. What about the original engineer? Vaughn again, casual as discussing weather. Dorsey McNeil paid him off. The sealed documents show everything's perfect. By the time anyone notices settling, if they notice, we'll have moved our money through offshore accounts. The project launches in 8 months. Vincent grabbed the recorder with shaking hands and ejected the memory card. His engineering degree, the one he'd gotten before choosing sound over structures, let him understand exactly what he'd heard. A compromised foundation on a waterfront high-rise meant eventual catastrophic failure. Not immediately, but someday that building would come down. His phone buzzed. "Marvin, come to the office. Now, don't go home." Vincent's stomach dropped. He looked up and saw Marco Knight standing in the booth doorway, blocking the exit. The man's expression was pleasant, but his eyes were dead. "Evening, Vincent. Productive night." Vincent slipped the memory card into his sock. "Just wrapping up. Great event. I noticed your recorder running. Channel 7, was it?" "Technical check. All good now." Marco smiled without warmth. "Vaughn would like to thank you personally. He's very interested in your work." "I really need to. I insist." Vincent's mind raced. The ballroom had a service exit through the kitchen. He grabbed his laptop bag. "Let me just secure the equipment first. Company policy." He walked toward the main console, then suddenly veered left, shoving a stack of equipment cases toward Marco. The man stumbled, cursing. Vincent sprinted through the service corridor, hearing shouts behind him. The kitchen staff barely looked up as he crashed through the exit into the alley. He drove straight to Marvin's office, checking his mirrors constantly. His boss was waiting, door open, lights low. Chapter 2. The Warning. Marvin Saunders looked older than his 60 years that night. The office was dark except for a desk lamp, casting shadows across his weathered face. He'd built his sound company from nothing, had been like a father to Vincent since hiring him fresh out of college. "Show me," Marvin said without preamble. Vincent plugged in the memory card. They listened in silence. When it finished, Marvin closed his eyes. "You know what this means?" Marvin asked quietly. "They murdered an inspector. They're building a death trap. This also means they'll kill you. And Kayla, anyone who knows." Marvin opened his desk drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. "I've been expecting something like this." Vincent stared. "What?" "I've done sound for Vaughn's events for 6 years. I've heard things, seen things, made recordings I kept as insurance." Marvin's voice was heavy with regret. "I thought I was being smart, protecting myself. Instead, I painted a target on everyone who works for me." He pushed the envelope across the desk. Vincent opened it. Inside were $20,000 in cash, a birth certificate, social security card, and driver's license for Thomas Wheeler, plus matching documents for Kayla under the name Sarah Wheeler. "What is this?" "Your exit. There's also a key to a storage unit in Richmond. Inside, you'll find another $50,000, a car titled to Thomas Wheeler, and everything you need to disappear. Vincent's hands trembled. Marvin, we can go to the police. Dorsey McNeil is the police. He's the police commissioner. Vaughn has judges, prosecutors, city officials in his pocket. You go to authorities, you'll be dead before you finish giving your statement. Marvin stood, walked to the window. 3 months ago, one of my junior techs, Israel Bell, noticed something odd at a Vaughn event. He was curious, started asking questions. They found him in the river. Jesus Christ. I didn't put it together until tonight. When Marco Knight came looking for you, I knew. They have people watching my business, my employees. Vincent, you need to take Kayla and disappear. Tonight. Don't pack. Don't stop at the house. I already called her, told her to meet you at the Riverside Diner. She thinks it's a surprise anniversary trip. I can't just our life. Your life ends tonight either way. This way, you get to live it somewhere else. Marvin's voice broke. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should have gotten out years ago, but the money was good and I told myself I was just doing sound, just staying in my lane. Now people are dead. Vincent looked at the documents again. Thomas Wheeler. A name. A ghost. What about you? I'm 63 years old. I've got lung cancer. Don't look at me like that. I've known for months. I'm not running. I'll keep the business going, act like nothing happened. Maybe it buys you time. Marvin, listen to me. Marvin gripped Vincent's shoulders. You're smart. You're patient. You understand how systems work. Take that recording, keep it safe. Someday, when you've built a new life, when you're ready, you come back. You make this right. You expose these bastards and you burn them down. How long? As long as it takes. 5 years. 10. Until you're certain you can win. Marvin's eyes were fierce. But when you come back, Vincent, you make damn sure they pay. For Israel. For everyone they've hurt. You make them pay for all of it. Vincent nodded, his throat tight. He hugged the old man. Go, Marvin whispered. And Vincent, don't try to contact me. Don't check on me. I'm already dead. But you get to be alive. You and Kayla. Make it count. Vincent grabbed the envelope and ran. Chapter 3. The Waiting. The Riverside Diner was mostly empty at midnight. Kayla sat in a back booth, still wearing her teaching clothes, confusion and worry etched on her face. She was 29, with her mother's kind eyes and her father's stubborn chin. Vincent loved her more than his next breath. Vincent, what's going on? Marvin called and said, We're leaving. Right now. I'll explain in the car. Leaving? What are you? Kayla. He took her hands. Do you trust me? She searched his face. Always. Then don't ask questions. Not yet. We have to go. They drove through the night, Vincent constantly checking mirrors. At a rest stop outside Richmond, he swapped their phones for burners and retrieved the car from storage, a nondescript Honda with Virginia plates. He finally told her everything as dawn broke over the interstate. Kayla cried, not from fear but rage. We should fight them. We can't win. Not now. Marvin's right. They control everything. So we just hide. We survive. And we wait. They settled in a small town in Montana, choosing Whitefish for its remoteness and tourist-heavy economy, where newcomers didn't stand out. Thomas Wheeler became a freelance audio editor working from home. Sarah Wheeler taught art classes at the community center. They rented a cabin with cash, kept their heads down, and lived. At night, Vincent worked. He studied law, forensic accounting, digital security. He learned how to build airtight evidence packets, how to manipulate audio files without detection, how to create unbreakable chains of custody for evidence. The original recording stayed in 3 separate safety deposit boxes under false names. He monitored news from home through VPNs and anonymous accounts. 6 months after they left, Marvin Saunders died, officially from his cancer, but Vincent knew better. The obituary was small. The funeral was smaller. Year 1. Harbor Point broke ground. Vincent watched the live stream of Vaughn cutting the ribbon, his stomach churning. Year 2. Kayla became pregnant. Their daughter, Emma, was born in a hospital under false names. Vincent held his baby girl and wept, knowing she'd never meet her grandparents, never have a real name. Year 3. Vaughn was elected mayor. The Harbor Point condos opened to acclaim, called an architectural triumph. Wealthy buyers moved in. Vincent watched and documented everything. Year 4. Marco Knight became chief of staff. Dorsey McNeil retired with honors. The system that protected them grew stronger. Year 5, Vincent's sister Lillian got engaged. He watched from afar, through social media, using untraceable accounts. She looked happy. He couldn't attend her wedding. Year 6, Vincent woke on a Tuesday morning and told Kayla it's time. Are you sure? He'd been monitoring chatter on construction forums, engineering websites. There were whispers about Harbor Point, minor cracks, settling issues the building management kept quiet. An independent structural engineer had posted concerns online, then deleted them. The building was beginning to fail, exactly as predicted. Vaughn's running for governor. If he wins, he's untouchable forever. And Harbor Point is going to collapse. Maybe this year, maybe next, but it's coming. People will die. Vincent looked at his daughter playing on the floor. I made a promise to Marvin. I have to keep it. Kayla corrected. We made a promise. Vincent kissed her forehead. I'm going alone first. If something happens, nothing's going to happen. You're smarter than all of them. She gripped his hand. You've had 6 years to plan. They've had 6 years to get comfortable, to get sloppy. You're going to destroy them, Vincent Brown. He smiled at the sound of his real name. He'd almost forgotten who he was. Yeah, he said. I am. Chapter 4. Ghosts Come Home. Vincent returned to the city on a gray October morning, 20 pounds heavier from weight training, his hair now cut military short, wearing glasses with non-prescription lenses. 6 years had weathered him in ways that made him blend. Just another 40-year-old professional and business casual, forgettable and common. His first stop was Riverside. The house he'd shared with Kayla had new owners, a young couple with a dog. He drove past without stopping. His favorite coffee shop was now a vape store. The city had moved on without him. He'd rented a furnished apartment under another false identity. James Patterson, IT consultant. The space was sterile, anonymous, perfect. He set up his equipment. 6 laptops, professional audio editing software, police scanners, encrypted communication systems. The wall above his workspace soon filled with printed photos, documents, timelines. Every piece of information he'd gathered in 6 years, displayed like a murder board. Vaughn's face dominated the center. Mayor Randolph Vaughn, now campaigning for governor with a war chest of $30 million. His official biography touted his business-friendly policies and commitment to urban development. Harbor Point was his crown jewel, mentioned in every campaign speech. Marco Knight had his own section. Chief of Staff, rumored to be Vaughn's enforcer. Clean record. No parking tickets. Vincent knew better. Then there was Seth Gentry, an investigative journalist who'd been writing careful pieces about Vaughn's associates, never quite connecting the dots, but dancing around the truth. Vincent had read every article. Gentry was smart, cautious, but missing the evidence to make his case. Vincent's phone buzzed, the encrypted one. A text from Kayla. Emma wants to know when Daddy's coming home. He typed back, soon. Love you both. Then he got to work. His first target wasn't Vaughn. It was the building itself. Harbor Point stood 23 stories tall, glass and steel gleaming against the waterfront. Beautiful. Deadly. Vincent spent 3 days in surveillance, documenting everything. The building had subtle warning signs if you knew where to look. Hairline cracks in the parking garage's support columns, slight tilting in the ground floor windows, stress fractures in the lobby's marble floor. He contacted a structural engineer through an anonymous email, attaching photos. The response came within hours. This building is in immediate danger. You need to evacuate and report this to authorities now. Perfect. Vincent saved the email, the engineer's credentials, everything. Then he began phase 2. He hacked into Harbor Point's building management system. Surprisingly easy after 6 years of studying cybersecurity. The maintenance records were damning. Reports of cracks, water damage, foundation settling. All marked as cosmetic or within normal parameters by inspectors who signed off without proper investigation. He copied everything. Then he found hidden files. Vaughn's development company kept dual books, one showing the actual substandard construction, another showing perfect compliance. The digital trail led to offshore accounts, shell companies, and a network of bribes spanning dozens of officials. Vincent leaned back, studying the data. This was it. This could destroy them. But evidence wasn't enough. He'd learned that lesson 6 years ago. He needed leverage. He needed them to destroy themselves. He pulled up Marco Knight's profile and smiled. Chapter 5. What was lost? Vincent discovered the truth on his 4th day back while researching Marvin's death. The obituary had been sparse, but death certificates were public record. He pulled it up through a legal database and felt the floor drop away. Cause of death: cerebral hemorrhage due to blunt force trauma. Marvin Saunders hadn't died of cancer. He'd been murdered. The police report, buried in archives, told the story. Marvin found dead in his office, apparent fall from his desk chair, hitting his head on the corner. Ruled accidental. Case closed within 48 hours. The investigating officer? A detective, Ruben Meza, who'd received a commendation and promotion 6 months later. Vincent sat in the dark apartment, staring at Marvin's photo on his wall. The old man had saved his life and paid with his own. Vincent had known it intellectually, but seeing the proof, the casual brutality of it, the system covering it up, ignited something cold and precise in his chest. He dug deeper. 2 other names emerged from his research. Israel Bell, the junior tech Marvin had mentioned. Official cause of death: drowning, blood alcohol content suggesting intoxication. But Israel's friends on social media remembered him differently. A teetotaler training for a marathon. The detective on that case? Also Ruben Meza. Whitney Rogers, a building inspector who'd raised concerns about Harbor Point's foundation in the initial phases. Died in a car accident, brake failure, 3 months before Vaughn's recorded conversation. Detective Meza had handled the traffic investigation. Vincent created a new section on his wall: the dead. 3 faces stare back at him. 3 murders disguised as accidents. All connected to Vaughn, all investigated by the same corrupt detective. He was photographing the police reports when his phone rang. Not the encrypted one, but the burner he'd been using for preliminary contact. The screen showed an unknown number. Hello. Is this the person inquiring about structural issues at Harbor Point? A woman's voice, tense and quick. Who is this? My name is Patricia Riddle. I'm a structural engineer. I've been documenting problems at Harbor Point for 8 months. Someone leaked one of my reports, and now I'm being threatened. Your email gave me hope that someone's finally listening. Vincent's mind raced. What kind of threats? I received photos of my daughter at school. No note, just the pictures. I know what that means. I went to the police, but they told me I was paranoid, that I should stop spreading alarmist rumors about a landmark building. Let me guess, Detective Meza? A sharp intake of breath. Who are you? Someone who wants to bring them down. Can you meet? They met at a diner on the city's east side, far from Harbor Point and Vaughn's influence. Patricia Riddle was 43, steel gray hair pulled tight, eyes that had seen too much. She slid a flash drive across the table. Everything's on here. Stress analyses, foundation surveys, projected failure timelines. That building could collapse in a major storm, an earthquake, or just from accumulated structural fatigue. We're talking hundreds of deaths. Why haven't you gone public? With what? I was hired by a concerned tenant to do a private assessment. I have no official standing, and everyone who matters is paid off. I tried reaching the media, but... She looked around nervously. I have a daughter. I can't end up like Whitney Rogers. Vincent studied her. You knew Whitney? We went to college together. He called me the week before he died, said he'd found something big. Then his brakes failed. She met his eyes. I know what that means. So yeah, I'm terrified. But I can't stay silent while people live in a death trap. What if I told you I could protect you and expose all of them? I'd ask how. Vincent smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. I'm going to make them confess. Everything. On tape. And then I'm going to make sure the whole city hears it. That's impossible. I used to be a sound engineer. Before I was a ghost. He pulled out a photo of Marvin Saunders. This man saved my life 6 years ago and paid for it with his own. I'm going to return the favor. Patricia's eyes widened as recognition dawned. Vincent Brown, you're supposed to be dead. I know, but ghosts have advantages. He pocketed the flash drive. Go home, pack a bag, and check into a hotel under a false name. Don't tell anyone where. In 3 days, this will be over. One way or another. What are you going to do? I'm going to give Randolph Vaughn exactly what he wants. Vincent stood. An audience. Chapter 6. The board is set. Vincent spent the next 48 hours building his trap. The plan was complex, relying on psychology, technology, and perfect timing. One mistake would get him killed. He couldn't afford mistakes. Step 1. Plant the seed. He created a false identity. Louis Brennan, a wealthy real estate investor from Chicago interested in Harbor Point's innovative waterfront model for a project in Illinois. The backstory was airtight, complete with shell company, website, and social media history going back 5 years. 6 years of preparation had taught him how to build convincing ghosts. He contacted Vaughn's campaign office requesting a meeting to discuss a substantial donation in exchange for business development insights. They responded within hours. Money opened doors everywhere. Step 2. The bait. Vincent sent an encrypted email to Seth Gentry, the investigative journalist, from an anonymous account. Want proof Vaughn murdered 3 people to hide Harbor Point's structural flaws? Be at the Grandview Hotel, room 412, this Thursday at 8 p.m. Come alone. Bring recording equipment. Gentry was smart enough to be suspicious and curious enough to show up. Step 3. The stage. Vincent rented a suite at the Grandview Hotel, the same venue where he'd recorded Vaughn 6 years ago. Poetic. He installed wireless microphones throughout the suite, hidden in smoke detectors, picture frames, and electrical outlets. He set up cameras disguised as coat hooks and wall clocks. Every angle covered, every word captured. The feed streamed to 3 separate cloud servers under encryption. Then he furnished the suite with props, printouts of Harbor Point's actual structural reports, blueprints, financial records. Everything Patricia had provided, plus everything Vincent had stolen from their servers. He arranged it like a war room, the evidence of their crimes displayed in plain sight. Thursday arrived. Vincent, dressed in an expensive suit and colored contact lenses, met Randolph Vaughn and Marco Knight in the hotel lobby at 6 p.m. Vaughn was 56, silver hair and practiced smile, every inch the successful politician. Marco looked exactly as Vincent remembered, sharp and dangerous. Mr. Brennan, delighted you could make it. Vaughn's handshake was firm, calculated. Marco tells me you're interested in urban waterfront development. I'm interested in profitable ventures. Vincent kept his voice deeper than natural, his accent slightly Midwestern. Harbor Point is impressive. I'd like to understand the model. They rode the elevator to the suite. Vincent's heart hammered, but his hands were steady. He'd imagined this moment for 6 years. Now it was real. In the suite, Vaughn immediately noticed the documents spread across the conference table. His smile faltered. Marco's hand moved toward his jacket. What is this? Vaughn's voice hardened. The truth, Vincent said. About Harbor Point. About Whitney Rogers. About Marvin Saunders. Marco pulled a gun. Who the hell are you? Vincent raised his hands slowly. Someone who knows what you did. Someone who has copies of everything on that table stored in 3 different locations, set to automatically release to the FBI, the media, and the state attorney general if I don't check in every 12 hours. Vaughn's face went pale. You're Vincent Brown. I thought so, Marco growled. You've changed, but not enough. 6 years is a long time. Vincent kept his voice level despite the gun pointed at his chest. Long enough to plan. Long enough to gather evidence. Long enough to build a case that will put both of you in prison for the rest of your lives. Then why are we talking? Vaughn had recovered his composure. If you have evidence, why not release it? Because I want to offer you a deal. This was the critical moment. Vincent needed them to believe, needed them to engage, needed them talking. What kind of deal? Vaughn asked carefully. You're running for governor. If you win, your influence becomes statewide. Your corruption spreads. But if you drop out of the race, publicly, and resign as mayor, I keep the evidence private. You get to retire quietly. No prison. No scandal. Marco laughed. You think we're stupid? The minute we back down, you release everything anyway. Maybe, but you have no other choice. Harbor Point is going to collapse. That's not speculation. It's engineering certainty. Could be next month, could be next year, but it's coming. When it does, hundreds will die, and this evidence will prove you knowingly built a death trap. That's not white-collar crime. That's mass murder. Vaughn studied him. You're bluffing. If you had airtight proof, you wouldn't be here negotiating. You're right, Vincent admitted. I need one more piece. I need you to confess. On tape. With details. That makes it unbeatable in court. And you think we'll just do that? Marco's gun hadn't wavered. No, Vincent said. I think you'll do it accidentally. Like you did 6 years ago. Vaughn's eyes widened with understanding and fury. He looked around the suite, suddenly seeing the microphones, the cameras. This whole thing is... The door burst open. Seth Gentry stood there with a camera crew, broadcasting live. Mayor Vaughn, is it true you've been meeting with a fugitive wanted for questioning in a corruption case? Vincent smiled as chaos erupted. But his smile faded when Marco Knight, instead of panicking, pointed his gun at the journalists and fired. Chapter 7. The Trap Springs. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The camera operator dropped, blood blooming from his shoulder. Gentry dove behind furniture, shouting into his phone. Marco swung the gun toward Vincent, but Vincent was already moving, 6 years of preparation guiding his body. He grabbed the hotel's heavy brass desk lamp and swung it like a club, connecting with Marco's wrist. The gun clattered away. But Marco Knight was a professional. He absorbed the hit and countered with brutal efficiency, driving his fist into Vincent's solar plexus. Vincent gasped, stumbling back. Marco followed, his face twisted with rage. 6 years hiding, and you come back for this. Marco spat. You should have stayed dead. He lunged again, but Vincent dropped low and swept Marco's legs. They crashed together, grappling on the carpet. Vincent wasn't a fighter, but he'd spent 6 years getting stronger, preparing for this exact moment. He drove his elbow into Marco's throat, buying himself seconds to scramble for the gun. Vaughn bolted for the door. Gentry, still on his phone, tried to block him, stupid and brave in equal measure. Vaughn shoved him hard into the wall and ran. Vincent's fingers closed around the gun just as Marco recovered. He aimed it with shaking hands, but Marco froze at the sight. Don't, Vincent warned. I've got nothing left to lose. Marco's smile was cold. Neither do I. He lunged anyway, and Vincent pulled the trigger. The shot went wide, intentionally. Vincent had never wanted to kill anyone, to stop them. But Marco mistook mercy for poor aim and pressed his attack, pinning Vincent against the wall. They struggled for control of the weapon. Then hotel security burst in, followed by actual police. Not Maze's corrupt precinct, but state police. Seth Gentry had done his homework, calling in reinforcements before he'd even arrived. Marco released Vincent and raised his hands, calculating his options. He attacked us, Marco shouted, pointing at Vincent. This man is a fugitive. He set a trap. We have everything on video, Gentry interrupted, limping over with his phone held high. Live streamed to 3,000 viewers. Your boss just confessed to murder, and your operative just shot my cameraman. You're done. Marco's expression went dead. He looked at Vincent with pure hatred. This doesn't end here. Yeah, Vincent said, breathing hard. It does. As they cuffed Marco Knight, Vincent slipped out through the service entrance. He heard sirens, shouts, more police arriving. His trap had worked, mostly, but Vaughn had escaped, and that meant the game wasn't over. Vincent ran through the hotel's back corridors, mind racing. Vaughn would run to his power base, call in favors, try to spin the narrative. Vincent needed to move faster. He had one advantage. He knew where Vaughn would go. 6 years of studying the man had revealed patterns. When cornered, Vaughn always went to the same place, his private office at Harbor Point, 23rd floor. The building he'd built his empire on, the monument to his corruption. Vincent grabbed his car and drove through the city streets, checking his phone. The live stream had exploded across social media. Hashtag Vaughn Confession was trending. News outlets were scrambling to catch up. But without Vaughn in custody, the story was incomplete. He parked 3 blocks from Harbor Point and approached on foot. Police cars surrounded the building, but they seemed confused, disorganized. Vaughn's people would be stalling, buying him time. Vincent needed another way in. He circled to the parking garage, the one with the cracked support columns. The structural damage was worse now than in his surveillance photos. Hairline fractures had widened to fissures. Warning signs were posted, but nobody had evacuated the building. Of course not. That would admit the problem was real. Vincent took the maintenance stairs, avoiding cameras and security. His audio engineering background included familiarity with building systems, maintenance access, all the invisible infrastructure people forgot existed. He moved like a ghost through the guts of Harbor Point, climbing toward the top. On the 20th floor, he stopped. His phone showed multiple missed calls from Kayla. He texted, "Almost done. I love you." 3 more floors. His legs burned. His ribs ached where Marco had hit him. But he kept climbing, driven by 6 years of rage and grief and determination. The 23rd floor was executive offices, all dark wood and expensive carpet. Vaughn's private office occupied the corner, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city he'd tried to control. The door was locked. Vincent pulled out a small device, a digital lockpick he'd bought specifically for this moment. The lock clicked open in seconds. He stepped inside. Randolph Vaughn sat behind his desk, pouring whiskey with steady hands. He looked up at Vincent without surprise. "I knew you'd come," Vaughn said calmly. "You're too obsessed to leave it unfinished." Vincent closed the door. "You murdered 3 people. You built a building you knew would collapse. You corrupted an entire city. And you're sitting here drinking whiskey? What else should I do? Run? Where would I go that your evidence wouldn't follow?" Vaughn gestured to the chair opposite. "Sit. Let's talk, one professional to another." "We're not professionals. You're a murderer." "No, Mr. Brown. I'm a pragmatist." Vaughn sipped his drink. Whitney Rogers was going to tank $1 billion development over some calculations. Israel Bell was going to leak security footage. Marvin Saunders had recordings that could destroy me. What would you have done? Not killed them. Easy to say, harder to live by. Vaughn leaned back. "You think you're the hero of this story, but you're just another man willing to break laws when it suits you. You've hacked computers, stolen documents, impersonated officials. How are we different? I'm not killing people. Yet. But you've destroyed lives tonight. Marco's career, mine, dozens of associates who will be caught in the investigation. All because you couldn't let the past stay buried." Vincent pulled out his phone. "This conversation is being recorded. You just confessed again." Vaughn smiled. "Of course it is. You're predictable, Vincent. That's your weakness. You think you're clever, but you're just angry. Angry men make mistakes. You're the one who made mistakes. You got comfortable. Sloppy. You forgot people were listening." "No," Vaughn said softly. "I knew you were listening. I've known since you came back. Why do you think Marco was in that hotel suite? I was waiting for you to make your move." Vincent's blood went cold. "You knew. I have facial recognition software at every major venue in the city. The moment you walked into the Grandview, I was alerted. Thomas Wheeler might fool humans, but not algorithms." Vaughn stood slowly. "The question was whether to kill you immediately or see what you do. I chose the latter. And now I know everything about your plan, your evidence, your contacts. Patricia Riddle, for instance. Quite brave, reaching out to you. Foolish, but brave. If you touch her, I don't need to. She's already taken care of." Vaughn checked his watch. "In about 10 minutes, Detective Meza will discover Ms. Riddle dead in her home. Apparent suicide. She'll leave a note confessing that she fabricated the Harbor Point concerns out of professional jealousy. Very tragic." Vincent's hand shook. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Check your phone. I'm sure you have her number." Vincent dialed. It went straight to voicemail. He tried 3 more times. Nothing. Terror gripped him. "You see," Vaughn continued, "you were so focused on exposing me, you forgot I've been playing this game longer. Your evidence? I have lawyers who'll tie it up for years. Your recordings? Inadmissible without proper chain of custody. Your witness? Dead. And you, a fugitive who's broken half a dozen laws tonight. You'll be the one in prison. The live stream is already being discredited. My media team is working overtime. By morning, the narrative will be that you're an obsessed ex-employee with a vendetta who fabricated evidence and staged a publicity stunt. Marco's shooting will be self-defense against your accomplices. I'll be the victim of a harassment campaign. Vincent felt the trap closing. Vaughn had been 3 steps ahead the entire time. The man wasn't panicking because he'd already won. But Vaughn didn't know everything. He didn't know about the structural engineer Vincent had contacted, the independent assessment, the evidence of the building's imminent collapse. He didn't know Vincent had sent copies to the State Engineering Board, the Federal Building Safety Commission, and the city's Emergency Management Office. He didn't know that the Harbor Point evacuation order would be issued in less than 12 hours, forcing an immediate investigation. Most importantly, he didn't know that Vincent had been recording their conversation on a special frequency, one that was broadcasting directly to the State Police Commissioner's office, where an honest cop named Captain Neville Norman was listening to every word. Vincent smiled. "You know what your real mistake was, Vaughn? Enlighten me. You assumed I came here to expose you. I didn't. I came here to save everyone in this building." Vincent pulled out a second phone. "Because Harbor Point is about to collapse. Right now." Vaughn's face went white. "What did you do?" "Nothing. Your building did it itself." Vincent showed him the screen, a structural monitoring app showing real-time stress measurements. The numbers were all red, critical failure warnings flashing. "The foundation is giving way. Maybe my footsteps up the stairs were enough. Maybe it was just time. But this building is coming down, and everyone needs to evacuate immediately." "You're lying." The building groaned. A deep, resonant sound that came from the bones of the structure. The windows shuddered. Vaughn's desk shifted slightly, rolling on suddenly uneven floor. "We need to leave," Vincent said. "Now." Chapter 8. The Fall. The building shook again, more violently. Vaughn's whiskey glass slid off the desk and shattered. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Vincent saw Harbor Point's reflection in the neighboring building's glass, and watched as cracks spiderwebbed up the facade. "This is impossible," Vaughn whispered. "The engineers said we had years. Your paid-off engineers lied. The real ones tried to warn you." Vincent grabbed Vaughn's arm. "Move. We have maybe minutes." The emergency system finally activated, alarms blaring throughout the building. Vincent could hear screaming from the lower floors, people panicking. He pulled Vaughn toward the door, but the man resisted, staring around his office like he was seeing it for the first time. 23 floors, Vaughn said numbly. "I built this. My legacy. Your death trap. Let's go." They ran into the hallway. The other offices on the 23rd floor were mostly empty, executive suites used mainly for show. But the stairwell was chaos, people flooding up from below, trapped by a locked roof access door. Vincent pushed through, using his maintenance override key to open it. "Roof," he shouted. "Everyone to the roof. Police helicopters are coming." It was a lie. He had no idea if helicopters were coming. But people needed hope to keep moving. The crowd surged upward. Vincent and Vaughn were swept along, climbing through smoke and dust as the building groaned around them. They burst onto the roof. The wind was fierce, whipping across the open space. About 40 people had made it up: residents, office workers, security guards. Everyone staring at Vincent, waiting for him to have answers he didn't have. The building shuddered again. The roof tilted 5 degrees. People screamed. Vincent looked over the edge and saw the nightmare unfolding. The entire southern foundation was collapsing, the building beginning to lean like a tree being felled. "Helicopters!" someone shouted, pointing. 2 police helicopters approached, spotlights blazing. But they couldn't land. The roof was too unstable, tilting more with each passing second. They hovered, lowering rescue baskets. "Women and children first," a security guard shouted, and Vincent loved him for having the presence of mind to organize. People formed lines, terrified but orderly. The baskets went down and came up, each carrying 2 or 3 people. Too slow. Way too slow. Vincent counted heads. 40 people. Maybe 6 trips per helicopter. 10 minutes minimum. The building wouldn't last that long. He pulled out his phone, calling Captain Norman. "We need more helicopters at Harbor Point. The building's collapsing with people still inside." The roof dropped another 10 degrees. People fell, sliding toward the edge. Vincent grabbed a roof access handle, bracing himself. Vaughn clung to a ventilation unit, his expensive suit torn and covered in dust, all his polish stripped away. How many still in the building? Norman's voice crackled through the phone. I don't know. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Vincent looked at the entrance. A few more people were staggering up from the stairwell, coughing from dust. We need all the help we can get. Fire department's on the way, but Vincent, that building won't hold. You need to get off that roof. Working on it. The helicopters continue their rescue operation. 10 people. 15. 20. But the building was leaning further, groaning like a dying animal. Vincent could see neighboring buildings being evacuated, police cordoning off blocks. If Harbor Point came down, it would take out half the waterfront. Vaughn crawled toward him. I didn't know, he said, eyes wild. I swear, I thought they were exaggerating the danger. You thought money mattered more than lives. Vincent grabbed him by the collar. All those people down there, they're dying because you cut corners and paid off inspectors. Because you cared more about profit than safety. I know, Vaughn sobbed. God, I know. I'll testify. I'll give you everything. Just help me get off this roof. Vincent looked at him, this powerful man reduced to begging, and felt nothing but contempt. But he nodded. You'll testify. You'll confess to everything. Every bribe. Every murder. Every lie. Yes. Anything. Please. A third helicopter arrived, Coast Guard this time. The rescues accelerated. 30 people off the roof. 35. Vincent waited until everyone else was in baskets or being airlifted before he grabbed the final harness. Come on, he told Vaughn, pulling him toward the rescue basket. They climbed in together, the cable groaning with their weight. The helicopter pilot gave a thumbs up and they lifted off. They were 50 feet up when Harbor Point gave its final groan. The southern foundation completely collapsed. The building folded in on itself, 23 floors of concrete and steel and glass pancaking downward in a roar of destruction. The shockwave hit the helicopter, spinning them sideways. Vincent gripped the basket rim, watching the building he'd spent 6 years obsessing overturn into rubble and dust. It took 47 seconds for Harbor Point to completely collapse. Vincent counted everyone. The helicopter set them down 3 blocks away in a parking lot filled with emergency vehicles. Paramedics rushed forward. Police surrounded them. Vincent saw Captain Norman approaching, flanked by state troopers. Vincent Brown? Norman asked. Yeah, you're under arrest for a long list of charges. But first, thank you. Your warning gave us time to start evacuations. We got most people out. Death tolls at 12 and climbing, but it would have been hundreds without your call. 12. Vincent closed his eyes. 12 people dead because he hadn't acted sooner, hadn't moved faster. 12 lives he couldn't save. And him. Norman nodded at Vaughn, who sat on the curb in shock. He's ready to confess. Everything. I have recordings. Good. Because between your evidence and his confession, we can dismantle his entire organization. Norman's expression softened slightly. You did the right thing coming back. I know it cost you. Vincent thought of Kayla and Emma waiting in Montana. His family. His life. Not as much as it cost them, he said, looking at the pile of rubble that used to be Harbor Point. Chapter 9. Rebuilding. The trial took 8 months. Vincent testified for 3 days, presenting evidence carefully assembled over 6 years. Patricia Riddle, who had survived the night despite Vaughn's threats. Detective Maze's arrest had interrupted the planned suicide, provided structural analysis proving the building's flaws. Seth Gentry's footage showed Marco Knight's attack and captured key admissions. But the breakthrough came from Vaughn himself. Sitting in a federal holding cell, facing life imprisonment, the former mayor made a decision to burn every bridge. He testified against Marco Knight, Dorsey McNeil, Detective Meza, and 17 other corrupt officials. His detailed confession included the murders of Whitney Rogers, Marvin Saunders, and Israel Bell, plus dozens of other crimes. Marco Knight got 40 years. Dorsey McNeil got 25. Detective Meza got 15. Randolph Vaughn, in exchange for his cooperation, got 12 years in federal prison. It wasn't enough. Not for the 12 people who died in Harbor Point's collapse. Not for the 3 he'd murdered to cover his tracks. Not for the lives he'd destroyed. But it was something. Vincent's own legal situation was complicated. He'd committed crimes, hacking, identity fraud, illegal surveillance. The prosecutor, a stern woman named Verna Hartman, laid out the charges methodically. But Captain Norman advocated for leniency, as did the families of Harbor Point survivors. In the end, Vincent received 2 years of probation and a substantial fine. He could live with that. On a Tuesday morning in June, Vincent stood outside the courthouse with Seth Gentry, who'd become something like a friend through the trial. The journalist was writing a book about the case, working title, The Sound of Collapse. "What's next for you?" Gentry asked. "Montana. My wife and daughter are there. Going to be boring suburban dad for a while." "You've earned boring." Gentry offered his hand. "Thank you for trusting me with the story. Thank you for having the guts to broadcast it live. That was insane. I know. My producer's still yelling at me." Gentry grinned. "Best career decision I ever made." Vincent's phone buzzed. A text from Kayla. "We're at the airport. Can't wait to see you." She'd kept Emma in Montana during the trial, protecting their daughter from the media circus. But now it was over. Now they could go home, really home, not hiding, not pretending to be someone else. Vincent had one more stop first. Riverside Cemetery was peaceful, all old trees and weathered stones. He found Marvin Saunders' grave easily, a simple marker under an oak tree. Someone had left flowers recently, maybe one of Marvin's ex-wives, or one of the many sound techs he'd mentored over the years. Vincent knelt and placed his hand on the stone. "I kept my promise," he said quietly. "They're all in prison. The building collapsed, but we saved most of the people. It's not perfect. It's not justice, not really. But it's what I could do." The wind moved through the oak leaves, sounding almost like applause. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it before people died. But I tried, Marvin. I tried to do what you taught me, to listen, to be patient, to wait for the right moment." Vincent's voice broke. "I hope that's enough." He stood, brushing dirt from his knees. He had a flight to catch, a family to reunite with, a life to rebuild. As he walked back to his car, his phone rang, an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, then thought better of it. "Hello, Mr. Brown? This is Lou Andrews from the FBI. We've been reviewing evidence from a Vaughn case, and we found connections to similar corruption in 3 other cities. Would you be willing to consult on the investigations? Your expertise in audio forensics and evidence gathering would be invaluable." Vincent stopped walking. 6 years of hiding, 8 months of trial, and now they wanted him to do it again? Hunt more corrupt officials, expose more crimes? He thought about Kayla and Emma. Thought about boring suburban life, PDA meetings, Little League games. Safety, normalcy. Then he thought about Whitney Rogers, Israel Bell, Marvin Saunders. Thought about 12 people dead in a building's collapse. Thought about how many more harbor points existed. Death traps waiting to happen, protected by powerful people who valued profit over human life. "Can I bring my family?" Vincent asked. "We'd arrange for protection, yes. And I'd have legal immunity for any necessary field work, within reason and with oversight. You wouldn't be operating alone this time." Vincent looked back at Marvin's grave, then up at the clear blue sky. He'd promised Kayla that after the trial, they were done with this life. But how could he walk away, knowing he had skills that could save lives? "I need to talk to my wife first," he said. "But probably yes." He could hear Lou Andrews smiling over the phone. "Welcome back to the world, Mr. Brown. We're lucky to have you." Vincent hung up and walked toward his future, complicated, dangerous, but righteous. He'd spent 6 years being Thomas Wheeler, hiding from his purpose. Now he was Vincent Brown again, and Vincent Brown didn't run from fights that mattered. He had ghosts to resurrect and villains to expose. But first, he had a daughter to hug and a wife to kiss. One victory at a time. Epilogue. 2 years later, Vincent sat in a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon, watching another corrupt city councilman through a window across the street. This one had approved unsafe housing projects. This one had taken bribes from developers. This one thought he was untouchable. Vincent adjusted his wireless microphone and smiled. They always thought they were untouchable. His phone showed a photo of Emma and Kayla at her dance recital, both beaming at the camera. His family. His anchor. His reason to keep fighting, to make the world safer one case at a time. Beside him sat his new partner, a young FBI agent named Manuel Burton, eager and idealistic in equal measure. Targets heading into the restaurant for his meeting, Burton said. All microphones active. Good. Remember, we just listened today. Gather evidence. No confrontations. You always say that. Then somehow we end up in a foot chase or a fist fight. Vincent grinned. That's why it's important to say it. They settled in to listen as another corrupt official began to talk, unaware that someone was recording every word. Unaware that Vincent Brown was haunting the airwaves again, a ghost with a mission. And somewhere in Montana, in a house with a white picket fence, Kayla Brown smiled at her phone and sent a text. Be safe. We love you. Come home soon. Vincent replied, always. He meant it. He'd come home. But first, he had work to do. The world was full of people who thought they could get away with murder, corruption, greed. Vincent Brown was there to prove them wrong. One recording at a time. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.